nicely. My name is Liam York, and I'm running for City Council in Denton, Texas, place 6. Is Denton recession-proof? Well, let's look at that. SmartAsset looked at that, and out of the 264 cities that they reviewed Denton to be number 4 recession-proof. This is wrong. The way they did this is they took 3 categories, 3 metrics in each. They looked at employment. So they look at the unemployment rate at 2007 to 2010, and they also looked at the joblessness rate. They also looked at housing. They looked at housing prices as it relates to income, the depreciation of house pricing. It's truck day apparently. And they also looked at delinquency rates. They also looked at social assistance. So how much public assistance does your town or state give? What's the state rainy day fund like? And how many people are actually reliant on welfare here? Out of all those metrics, the only one that really makes sense to look at as recession-proof is the social assistance. If people are able to self-preserve, then they can probably self-preserve way better during a recession. So there's something about that. The other two, they don't really show how a city is recession-proof. They just show circumstantial evidence. It's really arbitrary numbers at that point. And more to the point, they only used the last recession, the Great Recession, to showcase their ideas. So I'm really only going to be talking about the unemployment rate that they used. It kind of coincides with why the housing prices or foreclosure rates didn't dip. So first, to understand all this unemployment mess, let's look at Detroit. They had the 3 top auto manufacturers in America, probably the world at that time, right in Detroit. At the time, the whole...
Why am I so hot? It's only March and I'm burning up. It's sweating so much. Oh my God, what is wrong with me? Am I sick? Why am I so hot? I did just take 2 international flights that might... Oh my God. Oh my God, what's wrong with me? I can't stop. I can't stop sweating. I can't stop. It's only March. What? How much longer do I have to talk about this? I'm getting so tired. What's going on? I can't control myself. This is too much. Disney World's closing. Oh my God, am I dying? The thoughts won't stop. And I'm sweating so much. Am I dying? There's no way I'm sick. Am I dying? Why is this happening? Stay up. Am I sick?
Liam,
What are you doing here?
you're not sick. Get up. We need to talk.
Right now, Denton has some vague similarities to Detroit. 10% of our job shares are going to retail stores, 12% to food sales, and that's mostly college kids working there who go to the universities, which make up 18% of our job share. Now this alone makes Denton super recession prone. If something were to happen to the schools, that's a lot of jobs lost outside of schools. You're talking retail, you're talking food, you're talking healthcare, you're talking a lot of local jobs would go under if something were to happen to the schools. And that makes Denton very vulnerable. Schools are strong right now. That's really only because people can't declare bankruptcy on their student loans. So how does SmartAsset's unemployment factor into all of this? Well, they looked at unemployment now, and they looked at unemployment in 2007 and 2010 during the Great Recession. Denton fared pretty well under the Great Recession. We didn't have a whole lot of unemployment. We didn't have a whole lot of people moving. We actually had some people moving in during those years. But why? Well, during the recession, some jobs were lost, but also some jobs were gained. Major job losses were in areas like construction, mining, retail, stuff like that. Job gains were in government, education and health services, and utilities. Now, 2 out of 5 of our major jobs in Denton saw job gains during the recession, while 1 out of 5 actually saw job losses. When you look at the data, it's pretty clear that the Great Recession was a little bit of an anomaly for us. The previous 2 recessions, back in the 1990s and early 2000s, we actually saw unemployment go over the national average both times, and not by small margins either. Denton really suffered during those times. We had as high as 8% unemployment then. The only reason that Denton looks good during the Great Recession is because we saw job gains and not that high unemployment. So people moved in. We did see 1 year of house losses, but it was very minor. The other 2 years during the recession were pretty okay. So how do we actually make Denton recession proof? Well, first we need to be preventative, not reactionary. We need to fix the causes before they happen, not as they happen, as the city council and Denton government in general has been doing. One way to do that: diversify the economy. We don't just need more jobs, we need different jobs. We need things that aren't easily automated away, like tech industries or scientific studies or finance. So in the event of a recession or a depression or any economic crisis, one major job loss in one sector isn't going to result in the crumbling of Denton. Denton will still run on time, and it'll recover much quicker if we have multiple job sectors able to contribute to the well-being of our city. Secondly, Denton needs a rainy day fund. Texas has one and it's doing phenomenally for them as a state. Denton needs one in case of economic crisis or environmental crisis, because we are not immune to that. The Denton city government doesn't think that way, but I think it's immature and short-sighted not to. Crisis can happen, and we need to be a little bit more prepared than we already are. Let alone if faith in like UNT or TWU or colleges in general goes down and goes to trade schools or something like that, Denton is screwed. Another thing that we should do that I don't think the Denton government does is take a stand against monopolies and monopsonies. These types of business practices create artificial wages and artificial prices, and they really just kind of make a disaster out of the economy. It isn't something that we can just do right now, but it is a mindset that I don't think the Denton city government has. If you just look at the New York sub-hub getting railed by UNT, Denton government was entirely inactive during that. And it's really sad. It's really sad that they're in it for the money. So what can we actually do to make Denton recession proof? We need to invest in the long term, we need to promote savings in the city, and we need to invest in our infrastructure. Because we can't bring in new businesses if our infrastructure is crumbling. That's not a good investment for anybody. And that's my theory of the case. The SmartAsset study is interesting, but it really shows nothing about how recession-proof Denton is, more of how well we did in the last recession. That's not indicative of how recession-proof a city is.